Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here. I want to talk about a common topic that really has been beaten like a dead horse in the forums, but it's something that I haven't talked about in probably years. I think several years ago, I made a video talking about this topic, server merges, but I haven't in a while, and I thought I would talk about it since it's something that everyone talks about all the time, not on the only on the forums, but people comment on my videos all the time asking about server merges. People bring it up on the DDO Reddit. It's kind of brought up everywhere. People talk about it in game too a lot. And it's just one of those things that I think everybody wants, or at least most people want if it's feasible. So let's just go through the whole idea of it, what the problems are with it, what the upsides are of it, and just my thoughts in general. But I want to start by saying, big disclaimer, everything I'm going to say is it's just speculation. I'm not a IT expert. I'm not an expert on in terms of the technical complications. I'm not a employee, obviously, at Standing Stone Games, so I don't know a lot of things I don't know. So this is just speculation based on what I know and what I think and what I've managed to read and interpret from what developers have said on it, the little they have said, because they usually don't say a whole lot. But let's just start out by, it's just saying that I think a server merge is something that, as I just said, if it can be done technically and feasibly, then yeah, I think it would be nothing but a great thing for the game. The game is not nearly as populated as it used to be, and it's not all the time, but a lot of the time you can go into the game and have a hard time finding a group. And one thing I've noticed is that as the game's gotten older, especially the past few years, it was optional to be in a guild, but nowadays I think it's pretty much mandatory to be in a guild if you want groups on a regular basis, because with the population the way it is, you can't really rely on the public groups just to get groups all the time, because there aren't as many as there used to be. And it's not just that there's less players. We're also all the way up to level 30 now, so everyone's spread out between more levels than they used to be. But there's a lot of reasons why I think a server merge would not really, well, why they might not want to do it. The first thing is all the technical problems. Obviously, that's the huge issues, and I don't know the extent of these because I'm not an IT expert and I don't work at Standing Stone Games. But there's a lot of things that they would have to do if they did a server merge, such as not just transferring the characters, but they have to transfer things like guilds. I mean, these are things that people have paid for. People have paid for their guild amenities, for their ships, cosmetic things for their ships. How would they transfer guilds? That's something that would be really difficult for them to do, and that's not something that the current character transfer tool does. Inventory would be a huge issue. Messing up inventory, you could have potential problems not copying something over for players. So maybe people lose items upon a merge, or maybe there's big duplication problems, which we have had in the game in the past. There's your inventory caches, crafting storage, all that stuff will have to be transferred over. A lot of that stuff doesn't transfer with the tech they have in the game right now with the character transfer tool. Epic Destinies, those things would have to be transferred as well, as well as any kind of tomes you have, all that stuff. And there has been plenty of cases in the game right now where people have done things like true reincarnated, and while it's a rare bug, it's still a persistent bug where people can lose those kind of things even upon TRing. So that's an issue. So there's a lot of potential issues with inventory and duping and just all kinds of things they would have to bring over. A lot of things where the code of the game is really old, and another problem is there's a lot of people that aren't there anymore at SSG. There's a lot of former developers and staff people who are not there anymore. I mean, this DDO's been around since I think 2006, so it's been a long time, and there's a lot of employees who would have coded certain parts of the game who aren't there anymore to kind of explain it and to kind of explain how to transfer it over, or not explain how to transfer over, but who really have the mastery, I guess, or the familiarity with that kind of older code. So I'm not that. So brings me to the next point. I'm not sure that SSG has the expertise to do it. I don't know. I mean, there's so much spaghetti code with DDO. From what I hear is that It's just really complicated. We've seen this a lot of the time in game, that they'll change one thing and it'll have some weird adverse effect in another area of the game. I remember, what was it, like several years ago, there was like, they changed one thing and for some reason like kobolds popped up in the desert of Manactarum or something. There's a lot of weird things like that that can happen, because the whole code, as far as I understand, again, this is speculation, but as far as I understand it, the DDO's code is just this mass of spaghetti that's just intertwined. Everything is so intertwined that doing certain merges is just really technically difficult from what I've read, what I've heard. So I don't know that SSG really has the expertise there or the manpower. I mean, do they have the manpower? It's a lot smaller staff than it has been in the past at times. So I don't know. And then probably the next big issue, other than technical problems, people losing stuff, is lag issues. I mean, we've seen in the past a lot of bad lag issues. I think everyone remembers several years ago when they did the data center move and all the massive, horrible lag problems we had for a long time. This was back, 3-4 years ago now, something like that we had that just so many problems. It took a long time for the game to really get to where it is now, where obviously it's not perfect. There's still plenty of places where there's lag problems, and we have certain instances and certain quests and raids and things where there's still lag problems. But I think today, generally, the lag's in a good state in general, usually, but it's not always been that way. So if we all of a sudden combine, say we got rid of half the servers, can the servers take that extra load? Can they take double the load? I don't know. I mean, as the game's gotten older, you might think that, hey, I mean, we have a lot less players than we used to have, and the servers used to be able to support more players, so what would be the problem? And well, the problem is that the game, as it ages, it continues to get more and more complex. There's more and more effects that are added, more and more things that are running, more creature companions, more unique abilities with unique tech. Epic. I know when Epic Destinies came in, that was a lot of new things that were running in the background. I mean, there's a lot of the characters today are a lot more complicated than they used to be, and there's just a lot more calculations that the game is running in the background than it used to. So that's why, even though there's less players, combining them today, maybe a lot more load than the servers can handle. I don't know. Again, I'm not an IT expert. I don't know, but that's just a concern I have as an outsider looking in. So what else is next? There's always the potential with doing a server merge with just catastrophic losses. I mean, what if someone who's been playing for 10 years just lost their character and everything? I mean, that would be awful. And there's going to be that risk of people just losing characters. I mean, I don't know how big that risk is, but I would say it's probably there, considering that in the game today that happens every once in a while with the TR bug, which again is very rare. But just in January, I saw a post on the DDO forums of somebody who had TR'd and lost all their stuff and lost their past lives and all kinds of stuff. So and lost all their inventory. So I mean, is there the potential of catastrophic losses like that when they do a server merge? I would speculate and say, yeah. I mean, there would have to be. Again, I don't know how big of a risk that would be. Maybe it's a tiny risk, or maybe it's a substantial risk. I don't know. I wish I had the expertise to know, or I worked at SSG when that would be cool if I was at SSG and I understood exactly what they're dealing with. But I can only speculate. What else? Probably a smaller issue, but name conflicts. I know a lot of people would look at this and say, hey, this is not a big deal. Who cares? It's just a name. It's just a text field. Who cares? But again, this is D&D. A lot of people have been using the same character with the same name for literally over a decade. And they have a really strong tie to that name, and it means a lot to them. So they may not want to change. And how do they decide who gets what name? Because if you do a merge and you have a character name, I don't know, named Bill, and there's two characters named Bill on two different servers, and they merge the server, what would probably happen, because this is what happens when there's a transfer, is that one of the Bills would be transferred in as Bill, and one of the Bills would be Bill-1. And I would presume everyone would be given a name change tome. if they did a server merge so that you could change your name. Everyone who had a conflict could change their name. But maybe the guy that's been playing as Bill for a decade doesn't want to, and that would really upset him. I mean, again, I personally feel that's kind of silly, but I don't really care that much about my character's name. But a lot of people do. A lot of people play D&D because they're DDO because they're D&D. They're old D&D pen and paper players, and having a character that they role play as and spend a lot of time into, having a certain name really means a lot to them. So it's something that I think a lot of players don't care at all about, but I would say a decent subset of players really would care about that. What else? There's also financial costs. Obviously, if they do a server merge, that's going to be a big undertaking, and a lot of their staff is going to be spending a lot of hours doing that they could spend doing something else. So it's going to cost a lot of money just in terms of labor, staff salaries, what they're paying employees, because they're going to have to pay a lot of. Those employees are going to have to spend a lot of time doing a merge, and while it may passively bring in money for the game because it's going to make the game more populated, maybe help people stay longer, maybe it'll attract more players because the servers that are left will be more populated, it won't bring them any money in the short term or directly. And I don't know how SSG works. I don't know if they have quarterly goals that they have to meet as far as financials go in terms of net income and whatever, but it's definitely something that's not going to directly earn them money. What else? There's a lot of things that players purchase that are tied to server. Like I mentioned, guild upgrades, guild purchases, but also things like character slot purchases that they spent real money on. I mean, how do you deal with that? Because these are things people have spent real money on. So what if you don't transfer someone's guild? I mean, can we just delete someone's like guild ship that they've spent a bunch of money on? I mean, how does that work? Or if they can transfer the guild, can they even do that? Can they transfer everything? How's that going to work? I mean, that would be awful if they weren't able to do something like that, or maybe they made a mistake and someone's guild ship got deleted on transfer. But that's something someone paid for. They paid money for that. So can SSG just like take that away? I mean, regardless if it's a mistake. I mean, we're dealing with things people have bought with real money. And then there's things that people haven't bought, such as favor unlocks. I mean, can that stuff be transferred? Things that are tied to server? I don't know. Maybe. But it's a concern I would have. What else? I guess the next thing is it would probably require that the game be down for a long time. Again, speculation. I don't know how long it would take, but I would assume that we would have many days of downtime, if not a week or more, as they work this out. Again, could be wrong, but just speculating. That's going to be money, again, more money that SSG loses for having the game down, would frustrate the player base. It's not generally not a good thing. I guess one of the last things is, one of the other problems is it would give a defeated message that the game is dying, because it would be telling players that, hey, these servers can't keep the population. We need to combine servers so there's a decent player base. I mean, I don't really agree with that argument, but I could see some people arguing that. I mean, for me, it's just like, guys, I mean, the game's like 13 years old now. It's just a reality that we need to, that it would make sense to combine servers because we don't have as many players as we do then. But still, it's not a positive message to be sending your player base, if anything, that, hey, we're gonna shrink the number of servers. Again, I don't really agree with that argument, but I could see some people having that concern. What else? I guess the next thing I want to talk about is the character transfer tool, because a lot of people will say, well, hey, we got the transfer tech, because right now you can pay, what is it? I think it's 2,500 DDO points, and you can get your character transferred to any server. And as we all know, we have the ability to copy characters from servers onto Lamania, the preview server. So why can't we just do that? Well, that tech is not complete, because there are certain things that do not transfer over. So I mentioned a couple of them before, but your guild ship, your shared bank, crafting storage, astral shards, creature companions, TR cache, none of that stuff transfers over when you transfer a character over. So you leave all that stuff behind on your original server. So it's not like the character transfer tool we have right now is going to completely work in terms of doing these server merges. It won't. It doesn't include a lot of things that obviously would have to be transferred if they did a server merge. They can't do a server merge and just tell everyone on half the servers that, hey, you're going to lose. You're going to lose all your TR cash, all your creature companions that you paid for, that you paid lots of money for. Those are all gone. They obviously can't do that. So they would have to expand on that tech if they were going to do server merges. So I don't know how much time that would be. That would probably be a lot of time from the IT people. Another thing people bring in every once in a while is cross-server grouping. From what I've heard, now someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember the developers saying that can't really work with DDO's tech. So I don't think that's really a solution. What else? I think I've gone through all the negatives. That's a lot of them. That's a lot. It's a complicated issue. As far as the positives, obviously the probably main one is going to be more grouping. Obviously, more people to play with, more easier to run raids. I mean, this is an MMO. So having more groups helps the experience a lot. I don't really see any downside to that. I've seen a few people on the forum say, I don't want a server merge because I like being on Wayfinder. I like having my empty world in private server. I'm like, I don't understand that argument, because assuming there's no lag issues associated with the merge and no technical complications, I don't understand why you would have that attitude, because you can still play by yourself and be on a hugely populated server and never talk to anybody. It's not like if you run through the worlds, then being crowded really matters, because you can run through people. It's not like people can line up like a brick wall and prevent you from, going into the haberdasher or whatever. So that's not gonna work. I don't understand that argument. I don't get it. So let's talk about, will it happen, and what do I think? What do I want? Like, I personally would be for it, assuming there's no lag, like horrible lag problems. There's no massive game breaking problems or character breaking problems. I would completely be for it. I mean, I think a server merge would be awesome. I think it's very much needed. If they could technically have done, if they technically can do it, they should do it. Because I can tell you right now, the servers, while they're okay, especially during peak times, they're okay. Like, you see raids being run. I mean, you see probably, I don't know, on Atlantis at least, where I play, probably during peak times, you see something like maybe 10 LFMs, and probably a lot more than that, a lot more than that of people just running like in guilds and things who they wouldn't throw an LFM up for. But there's probably like 10 to 15 LFMs like during prime time. During off time, there's probably only like 5 to 10. In the middle of the night, there's probably just like 3 or 4. But there's a decent amount. I mean, like, you can still throw up groups and get people to join them. Like last week, I threw up every once in a while. Like last week, I threw up or 2 weeks ago, I just threw up an LFM for a Baba's Hut raid, and it didn't take too long to fill. Granted, it was on a Saturday, but you can still fill up LFMs, and I think there's definitely more of a perceived problem than there really is. I mean, it's true that the servers aren't as populated, but there's a big problem, I think, in the game with there being tons and tons of people willing to join a group, but very few people willing to actually lead, especially when it comes to raids. People, I understand it's stressful, especially running a raid, especially with a public group. It can be stressful trying to manage all that, talking to people in voice chat. A lot of people don't want to do that, especially when it comes to raids and even regular quests. I see a lot more people willing to join groups than actually willing to create groups, because I know this because often I'll create a group and it'll join. People will join pretty quickly when there's no LFM there. So I think there's a lot of people in game who actually just who log in and look at the LFM screen waiting for one to pop up. And I'm not perfect either. I do that sometimes because I don't always feel like running a group, but I will run groups, and I wish more people would be willing to run groups, but or lead groups. But let's get back to the main topic here. I would be for server merges. I hope they can do them. I would love to see them do that, but don't do it if it's going to break the game. Obviously, then I wouldn't be for it if it's going to cause lag and things. But do I think it's going to happen? I don't think so. I used to think they would, but at this point, it seems like if they haven't merged, if they haven't merged servers yet, I don't really know if they're ever going to do it, because it's been pretty obvious to me, at least since like what 2016 or so, that they really need to do a server merge, and they still haven't done it. So that leads me to think that they're not going to. I hope I'm wrong. That'd be great if I'm wrong, but it seems too risky, especially from what I've seen. The few times developers have kind of commented on it, because they don't often comment on this. People bring it up on the main forums on DDO.com regularly, like all the time, probably every single week. And rarely do they comment on it, but they have a few times in the past. But when I have seen them talk about it, they haven't really said much. There was one, well, actually, I'm not going to say anything there. I think some people will point out and say that Lotro had server merges, and they did, but I don't know that it's really just because Lotro did it, DDO can do it. They're different systems. DDO's older. They run on the same engine, but they're different games. DDO's older. I don't play Lotro, so someone correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like DDO probably has more technical issues than Lotro does, in terms of lag and things, and in terms of just the game being older. So I don't know. It just seems like DDO has more lag issues and things, more technical hurdles to overcome in terms of server merge than Lotro. They still haven't solved a lot of long-term issues with DDO in terms of, lag, and I already talked about the TR thing. There's other things like the Night Revels, for instance. They had to cut out the public Slayer area because the servers couldn't handle it. I mean, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence that the servers can handle a server merge if they couldn't handle that and it was just crashing the servers. Or at least not, if not crashing, I don't know if it was crashing, but it was causing, the rest of the server to be nearly unplayable or super handicapped because of it. We still have things like Defiler of the Just. I was watching one of Voodoo's YouTube videos, and he was talking about how that raid is still extremely laggy and still doesn't really work. How you can often get lagged out in that raid, and how it's something that they couldn't really, it seems like they just couldn't fix it, and they moved on since then, and they just kind of left it as is. And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things like that where there's instances of lag in the game and things they can't fix and things that the game has problems with. It really makes me doubtful or at least makes me doubt that they could handle a server merge. I don't know. I wish the game could, but I'm not that confident. And who knows? Maybe there's some IT guy from SSG watching this right now and laughing his ass off because he knows of a way that they know that they can handle server merges. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's some specialized technical issue that's causing these patches of lag that has nothing to do with a server merge. I don't know. But there seems to be issues with DDO that would prevent it. Just for me as someone who doesn't know anything about IT, well, I know a little bit, but doesn't know a lot about IT, looking in. So what else? As far as lag goes, we even still have things like when we have the weekly restarts, I think they're every Wednesday. If you don't know why they do that because the game builds up this I guess things that are running in the background as far as I understand it. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but there's things like there's a cache of things kind of running in the background. They just build up, and they have to do a server restart to kind of refresh all that stuff and kind of flush it out. And that's why we do server restarts every Wednesday, is just to prevent lag. Yeah, if you don't know why they bring the servers down and restart them every Wednesday, that's why, as far as I understand, because of basically to prevent lag and keep the servers running smoothly. So, all these problems I've mentioned just lead me to believe that they're probably not going to do it, because it seems just way too risky. From me looking and what I've seen, it just seems too risky. I don't know if the servers can handle it. I don't know if they wouldn't break the game in certain ways. So I'm not. If you guys are wondering, I don't think they're going to do a server merge. I think they're just going to let the game ride out the way it is until eventually the day comes when the game gets shut off. But I don't think the good thing is, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. As I talked about in my DDO population video that I did like 2 weeks ago, I think the game has somewhere around like 30,000 to 40,000 players ish from what I can estimate. So I think the game is still going strong. I think the game Obviously, while it's well past its prime, it still has a very dedicated batch of players, group of players, and people willing to support the game monetarily, that I don't think the game's going to go anywhere soon. Dungeons and Dragons is still a strong IP. We even see things where I think the game could grow some in the future, because we've seen things in the news, such as they're going to do more Dungeons and Dragons movies. So things like that could possibly help out the game if it gets more mainstream people into Dungeons and Dragons, if the movies are good. If things like that, I think, could help the game. We could see people, say, "Oh, I like Dungeons and Dragons. I saw the movies. I want to play a game." So maybe we'll see something like that in the future. So yeah, guys, I think that unfortunately we're not going to get one, but I think the game will be okay for many years. And the thing is, those of you who are frustrated by that, I'm telling you, join a guild. Try an active guild. There's active guilds, I would say, there's active guilds on every server. So you may need to go to the forums and ask around. You may need to ask around on your server, just find out where the active guilds are. But you have to, if you're someone who's introverted, and I'm very introverted too, and I have anxiety about things like that too, in terms of like leading groups and meeting people in game. If you're like me, you kind of need to toughen up and bite the bullet, and just try more to join a guild and personally get to know everyone in the guild, so you can make friends in game and group with people. It's just, you can't rely on public groups anymore, unfortunately. If you want to have a full kind of grouping experience and not solo, going from level 1 to 30. You need to make friends in game. You need to make static groups. You need to make connections with your guilds. So you can still have the experience that you used to have back in the day, relying on public groups, if you just make that effort to really get to know people. So if you're frustrated that hasn't been a server merge, I would say do that. Just make more of an effort. If your guild is not, if no one really talks in your guild, maybe consider finding a new guild if you need to. If there's people in your if people in your guild aren't making effort, or maybe step up yourself and start organizing things. Because again, we have a lack of leaders, I think, in the game, in the servers, and plenty of followers. So I think if some of you would step up and actually just post in the forums or post on Reddit, say, hey, I want to run raids every Friday at 8 p.m. Who wants to join? I bet you'd be able to get plenty of people to join your groups. Just set a schedule, get a plan, meet people. I think the game will be okay without a server merge. I think a server merge would be amazing. I think it would help it, but I think we'll be fine without it, and I don't think we're going to get it. So guys, yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Kind of a long video. Let me know what you think. Please, post below if I've said anything. I try as much as I can, especially when I'm talking about something like this, to be as accurate as I can. If I've made any mistakes, please correct me below. If you just have a different opinion, please comment below and let me know that as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time. Take care.